call to order the Monday, August 26th meeting of the Ellettsville Town Council. Marshall, you want to do the prayer?
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you just one more time, and again, we thank you so much for this little town that we serve. We ask you to be with us and lead and guide us in a way that pleases thee. Just be with us all as we transport through life. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, since you were standing, you can do the pledge too.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm very time sensitive.
You are.
I'm surprised you're here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I need to take a week off on your honeymoon.
Well, week from today, we leave. Her brother's in town right now, so I'm going with him.
Are you?
As a chaperone?
He's going to carry his bags.
It will be interesting.
All right, let's go with the roll call, please.
Scott Oldham,
Here.
Dan Swaffer,
Here.
William Ellis,
Here.
Trevor Sager,
Here.
Pamela Samples,
Here.
And let me be cognizant of something that came after the last meeting. Can you hear us in the audience? Can one of the CATS members turn up the volumes on the microphones, please?
How does mine sound? Can everybody hear me?
All right, we're
Okay.
better now. All right, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, August 12th, 2024.
So moved?
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? And any abstaining? Action to pay accounts payable, vouchers, and payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? First resolution this evening is Resolution 29-2024 to amend the Ellettsville Plan Commission's proposed Unified Development Ordinance.
At the end of the last meeting, the council voted, or there was a consensus to have council members send me their proposed amendments by end of business of Friday of that week. And so what I did was I took each suggestion and put each suggestion in its own proposed amendment with the thought that some of you may agree to some of these amendments and not others, so I thought it would be helpful to discuss each amendment separately, and I think it'll also make it easier for the Plan Commission if you make changes for the Plan Commission to follow through and determine which ones they want to approve or not. And so I have proposed amendments A through G, and so if the council will go and vote on those, and then you're going to pass assuming you pass any of these, then the resolution will be approved as well.
Okay, so you got me just a little bit confused. Do you want them each read in their entirety, or just the pertinent parts of each, or pass them all as one?
If you all agree, you can pass it as one, but if you don't agree, I would suggest looking at each amendment separately and voting on each amendment separately, and I think William has agreed maybe to withdraw one or two anyway. So,
Okay, so this is a little odd in how we'll do this, but let's go just proposed amendment to proposed amendment, and then we can discuss if necessary. Under proposed amendment A, it's under Chapter 3, Standards for Specific Uses, specifically 3-10, Non-Commercial Livestock. Proposal for the amendment is this section shall be struck in its entirety.
yes, there was a suggestion by the council member to keep the current code, which is not in planning and zoning, but it's under, the animal ordinance is under 96.01. So the suggestion was to keep the animal ordinance the way it is. And so,
I'm sorry.
and so that's why that says that section shall be struck in its entirety. And again, as we discussed at the last meeting, the council can always come back at any time and suggest changes to the UDO to the Plan Commission. So if you're still not happy after this evening, you can always come back and use the pertinent sections under the Indiana Code to ask the Plan Commission to initiate changes.
Okay, my question was, so we're eliminating the struck in its entirety, which I support. Is it taking the current code and replacing it there?
No, because 96 is not under planning and zoning. 96 is a separate code section.
Okay, so what were the steps we could do afterwards to put this,
To amend the other code.
yeah, to amend the other code to put this into the UDO?
Well, you could take 96 and just put it in here, or you could just put a link in here, a hyperlink that says C96.02 for animals or something like that. And that way you don't have to move it,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
it does.
Okay. Is there questions or comments from council about this proposed amendment? And for the public, we'll come back to all the amendments at once for you to comment on. Just for the brevity's sake, we'll go to the council first. Anything from any of the council? Mr. Town Manager? Moving on to proposed amendment B.
This
This is
was
under-
another suggestion. There's a table that talks about prohibited signs. It's in table 4.10 in the UDO. One of the signs that is prohibited, or one of the types of signs, is animated signs, and so upon suggestion by a council member, that was to be redacted, so that's why you have the redaction there for animated signs, so those would no longer be prohibited if you accept this amendment.
Questions or comments from council? I guess go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I've got a question for whoever on this. It says we are prohibiting pole signs and roof signs. What then are going to be the signs allowed on the side of businesses? Directly attached to the business itself?
Where does, on this one?
Prohibited signs, if you come down.
Oh, I see here. Okay, pole and roof.
Pole
yeah.
and roof. So does it have to be mounted directly to and not extending above? Because I'm thinking of any variety of current ones in town and/or other places that may seek to come to town that have a very signature signage that this, to me at least, would seem to disallow.
Example for me is, you can see who sponsors me, would be McDonald's.
Right. Now, that was one I was thinking about, but we already have one of those, but now this would be,
Right.
Well,
they're not technically in the town at this point, so when they come into the town, does the Golden Arches got to go by the wayside?
Table 4.13 talks about permitted permanent signs. So those are awnings, monument signs, mailbox signs, projecting signs, wall signs, and window signs.
I think what Scott's saying, 4.10 says pole signs. Signs are mounted on one or more freestanding poles or supports so that the bottom edge of the sign face is not in direct contact with the solid base or ground. That's under prohibited signs.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the example we did that's not coming to mind. I don't know if you and Dan recall when we talked about that in the steering committee, but it says not in direct contact with the solid base or the ground.
Well, we mentioned Domino's. The Domino's would be prohibited from the sign they have.
Yeah.
Domino's, or the original UDO would have been prohibited from two things, the pole signs and the animated sign.
Okay.
So,
So, anybody want to enlighten me here?
and also the roof signs, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
See, on the roof signs, I kind of picture maybe a sign on a angled roof, not actually signs that are mounted to the facade. So I think that's kind of discussing like a angle sign that would be attached to the top of a roof or an angled roof. That's kind of the way I picture that,
Well, it would seem to
because I
me,
made a note of that too.
since we all can't define it,
Right.
and we're leaving, I would move to strike that, the roof signs. And then I have a question about the emanating signs, or emitting signs. The ones that emit a audible sound, odor, or visible matter. Okay, I can take odor and visible matter, but the audible sound, we have some folks in town who are visually impaired who may need the audible sound from some things because some places have walk, don't walk that have a audible sound. So we very well can't go installing one of those that's in direct prohibition for our
Correct.
UDO.
So that wouldn't come under safety?
Right here, it's,
It says it's not permitted.
yeah.
It doesn't give any consideration for safety or anything here.
I mean, again, I'm with you, it's more of a traffic control device than it is a sign, but I'm just asking these questions now. If we're going to consider those traffic control devices, then I'm fine leaving it the way it is.
Well, so what do you think the board's overall view of pole signs and the like. I mean, what would you like to see the town look like in the future? I mean, that might help answer the question.
Well, they're going to take me down a road I didn't want to go down. Quite honestly, I'm concerned about the enforcement of it. Just flat out. If we can't define it sitting here, then the enforcement is up to whoever decides to enforce it. And that bothers me.
Well, the other side of the coin is, I'm afraid of not having some kind of enforcement to protect.
All right, and I'm fine as long as we can
The
define what that
aesthetics of our
enforcement's
town.
going to be ahead of time. But again, we've just talked about 2 signs that would be prohibited under this when they come into the town or are already existing.
And for me, I'd have to ask, why would these be considered a negative or a positive for aesthetic-wise? That's a subjective call.
Well, you're right about that. It is subjective, but in our future, I think pole signs, which would include billboards, especially animated ones, when people start living in and around them, not only will they be a distraction for people trying to live near them, but I can't understand why anybody would think that the attractiveness of our town would be enhanced by those signs.
And on the flip side, I don't see how anybody could say they would be unenhanced by them. I mean, again, it's, as I think I've said to you, a digital billboard to me strikes this town as some place, there are foots in the future. I mean, a lot of things, as example, a digital billboard can be advertised. Public service notices, you can actually, 4 or 5 different types of businesses.
I always think
So-
of Las Vegas.
Yeah, but when you drive, I bet you most people don't even notice. And I've talked to Morgan County sheriff deputies and asked if there's been any more accidents or problems with their signs, because they have, and they're not seeing any. They thought they would be at first, but there's no data to back that that's a distraction. Now, would we want them in residential areas? That's a conversation we could have. But,
Wouldn't we like to populate downtown with some residential opportunities?
well, absolutely. And I'm not saying against that. I'm more visualizing, that's something that, we could say it has to be within a certain amount of feet of, and that we can change later. But I'm kind of with Scott here. We're not defining it clear enough, and no one has a clear definition, so that leaves too much room for interpretation.
Well, I would like to also add on top of all this is, once we do change something, there's more things in here. I mean, like page 99, it goes into the,
On the UDO manual, not our agenda.
right, in the UDO. It goes back to mentioning the flashing and blinking and all that signs too. So if we're gonna change one thing, it's gonna cascade into other parts of this. You see
I
what I'm trying to
understand.
say?
I do understand that, but I don't think that's a good reason
Oh,
not to.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not,
We have
not
to fix
talking
both.
against,
Okay,
right.
yeah,
we-
you're right.
What Scott's saying is we can't just change one thing.
Right.
It needs to go all
I
the way
agree.
through this and make the changes. And what I would suggest is, and Darla will help me on this, but if we send it back to Planning Commission with, say, clarification on the sign, could it be worked at that level, or do we have to go through this whole ordinance and change that part now?
You have to give the Plan Commission specific suggestions on how to change it.
So you can't be vague about it. You can't say, look into
No.
table 410 inflatable
No.
sign.
Well, but we can say we require further definition of 410, defining what is actually meant by this ordinance.
I don't think we can we, Darla? I think we have to,
We're sending back with
I
suggestions.
Don't
think
we
you
have to
can
provide the
send a
definition?
yes, you can suggest the definition to the Plan Commission.
But then who's going to go back through here and fix the rest of it?
You're talking about if we move
Yeah.
one brick, there's another brick.
Right,
now out of
right.
place, yeah.
I mean, because if you go to page 99, it just repeats a lot of what's being said here.
Can it be sent back to Plan Commission where we find the prohibited signs table inadequate?
No, because that's vague.
Okay,
I think you need to tell them specifically what you don't like about it.
it lacks definitions.
Dan, here, how about this? What if we, like, when we remove these, then later on, we can clean up the definitions? And by later on, I mean by end of year.
You lost me. Remove them.
Okay, so if we struck through pole signs, as an
Right.
example, then we can go through this later to clean up the legacy things that point to this that no longer exists. But this there it would take it away from being prohibited.
I'm sorry, you still lost me.
Well, what's on page, I don't have the UDO in front of me to be able to say what's on page 99.
Well, it starts talking about sign illuminations, and then it mentions the flashing and everything it says about
Right.
animated signs. It mentions it again in sign illumination. So what I'm saying is, I don't know what I'm saying, to be honest.
Well, I don't see where this would be in conflict, because if it's basically saying that if these things are allowed, they would still have to comply with these standards, but we would have to, let's see. All permanent signs are permitted to be internally or unless, okay, all have to be located, shaders, shields, light intensity is not, okay, that covers the light intensity around property. No sign shall have blinking, flashing, rotating, revolving, or fluttering lights, nor shall any device be utilized which has a changing light intensity, brightness of color, or gives such illusion. We might strike that. C, I think, says the direct or reflected light from a primary light source shall not create a traffic hazard to operators of motor vehicles and or public safety roadways. We can keep that in there. That way, if Jimmy and the police start seeing there's a problem with a sign, then we have some enforcement power. If the data that we've come up with doesn't apply to our drivers, D is just kind of standard.
Can I answer Scott's question
Yeah.
about prohibited pole signs? The definitions under chapter 9 says a pole sign is a sign anchored directly to the ground or supported by one post, column, or other vertical structure or support. The sign is not attached to or dependent for support from any building, and the sign area is not in close proximity to the ground. Billboards would be considered pole signs, so I think that's what it means when it says it's not in direct contact with a solid base on the ground. They don't want it to be hanging off of a building or something, since it's a pole sign.
But almost every bank has a sign like this one on page 99 as an example. This would be considered a pole sign?
And animated.
Under that definition.
And I'd make the argument, I don't see why we would ban that.
Would you like to see on the screen an example of pole signs? I asked.
Sure.
Yeah.
I asked for one today
Okay.
to make a point.
So you guys share?
There you go.
So like the, what is that? Aaron's Transmission Service, those are all pole signs, then, right?
Yep, got billboards.
I'd make the argument if they were all at ground level, that's going to prevent people from seeing the signs quickly.
Do we want this in our future? We are working so hard to make our town green and clean and even serene, and this is not the way to go. Just my opinion.
But yet, if they lowered the sign down and put it on a solid footing, solid base, even if it's 25 feet tall, that's permitted.
Yeah, there's towns that have a uniformity that do make the signs more palatable, but
Well, I get you don't like the sign, and I don't know that I necessarily do either. I'm just looking at the ambiguity of the pole sign definition versus the other definitions where we're trying to be consistent. And my question was, okay, so I can't have a roof sign that goes on my building above the roof line or parapet, so it means I gotta keep it below the roof. And I can't have one on a pole, but I can put a big monument sign out front. It just strikes me as not a good balance.
And see, what would fix that right there is if they had a maximum height and a minimum height, that all signs had to be uniform when
And
it
they
comes to
do,
height.
it is listed in here.
Yeah, I was just saying,
Monument
that
signs.
example,
No, I get that, yeah.
that example would not apply if we did that. Because the reason that looks so bad is all the site, they're all different heights and different setbacks. We can control that.
But and again, what's part of the sign and what's part of the pole? I mean, so if you have McDonald's down on the ground level, is that then considered applicable, or is it?
On the ground level would be okay. But seeing the golden arches from a distance, that's not gonna be okay. I can tell you, for me, living at McDonald's in different areas, it is tough when they're down on the ground for you to be able to see, where do I turn? But when I see it like that, I know exactly where to turn. The same for all those.
Makes it hard to see when you turn out, too. Yeah.
What, monument signs?
Yeah.
If you would
Yeah.
drop them all to the ground.
Yeah.
I think if we had a consistent height, just imagine if we could Photoshop all those would be a consistent height. I think that would look not bad at all. They're in good repair.
Well,
But
Just-
again, that's a personal preference.
just to be a pain in the butt, it makes me want to just turn, period.
Makes you wanna what?
Just turn away and go another place, period.
They probably have different heights so you can see them. Like if they were all one thing and you're going
Right,
down
I'm
through
sure they
there.
do.
Right.
But we'd run into the same problem if they're all monument signs. They're all you're
Right.
not gonna see them either.
That's why they got them like
Yeah.
that, because like the pizza place, if that other sign was lowered down in front
They'd be
of it.
blocking it, correct.
Right.
From one angle.
So what's our goal? I mean, that's why you would decide what you want to do here, and does anybody think that's beautiful?
So I guess that is my question in reverse. What is our goal and what is allowable under this ordinance as far as businesses?
Well, as we put the trails in and the parks and green up everything we can, one of my goals is for people to be able to go downtown, go to places that are new and built right, and enjoy them without the harshness of advertisement. My goal is for people to relax when they go downtown. There's nothing relaxing about that.
Okay, well, let's
Well, that's off a
extrude,
major,
yeah, let's
highway.
extrude that a little bit.
46 is major.
it is.
But when we talk about downtown, I'm assuming you're talking about the Sale and Vine area. I don't know that any of these pole signs belong down there. I'll give you that up front,
Right.
just from the aesthetics of it and what we're trying to do down there. But on the other hand, again, I gotta come back to McDonald's or CVS or one of those. They're out further from that downtown area. It lacks that aesthetic quality. And yeah, you do have to have a little bit of foreknowledge before you come to them.
But everybody has these now. It'll tell you when to roll up your window and get ready.
Yeah, but do we want them on our phones driving 45, 50 miles an hour? I mean,
Now you're killing me, because, I mean, Siri will talk to you, and Lexus will talk to you, and a couple other people from Britain.
The-
I mean,
these
they'll all
signs-
talk to you and tell you what to do.
well, if businesses are directly on 46, you're gonna see that. But from what I've understood, a lot of them are gonna be set back quite a bit. You're not gonna, these are there so you can see them at that speed, 45 miles an hour. You're not gonna be able to see a monument sign going 45 miles an hour in enough time. I would assume, and I don't know, I have not researched it, but you'd have people slamming on the brakes. Oh, there it is. And you have people 45 miles an hour.
Well, I guess what gives me pause, I mean, I understand Mike's point on the pole signs, I do. But couple that with the roof signs, where I can't put something that extends above my roof line attached to the side of my building. Okay, can we give on one of these?
And a good example, look at Pizza Hut up there. You can just barely see it, but you know there's a roof sign right there. So would that be allowed, or would that be, Denise, do you know?
I have no problem with roof signs. I actually permitted one earlier this year.
But under this.
Right, it's not
The
whether you
enforcement
permit it or not.
Yeah. It's
the
Does the
enforcement
UDO
portion.
allow it?
It's
But
the confusion of the enforcement.
Right.
Because by that Pizza Hut sign, to me, that's a roof sign, right? Do you guys agree or no?
yeah, I agree. It's a
I
roof
think
sign.
it's
The
a
one
pole
on the-
sign, I'm sorry.
No, the one
No, on
Red
freestanding,
roof. You
Right.
can't see it.
right.
Oh, the
But
one
all
on-
Pizza Huts have that
Yeah.
Right under-
on the roof.
Right
Well, but I
under the-
think by this
Same.
definition, it doesn't extend above the roof line because the roof's 10 foot further
Right.
up. So it would be allowed. But what if you've got a one-story that you just want to hang out a small shingle at more than eye height? Again, I can give one or the other, but both of them kind of X out a lot of places that, downtown's a perfect example Mike just gave. So if you want to hang out a small sign that sticks out over the sidewalk, I don't know that's currently permitted, what is your signage options going to be?
That sign's permitted as long as you approve it, because it usually will hang out in a
Right.
right-of-way, which you did for what's now caffeinated.
Right, but under this ordinance, it wouldn't be permitted.
Yes. So I'm really okay with them if you want to remove that.
Take out roof signs altogether.
Because what I requested was something in writing that the roof could support the sign that was going on it.
And do we want to keep the ban on pole signs in too?
Well, in Amendment D it is, because proposed Amendment D strikes pole
Right.
signs.
So we're covering two kind of,
Right, yeah, unknowingly.
right.
So what says the council about pole signs? That's Amendment D as well for everyone following along with the home game. Are we keeping it, or are we gonna let that go as is?
I see both points, I really do. I see what Mike's saying, but also being in business before, I see advertising is your key asset, and advertising sign is one of your major draws, so, I'm like 50-50 right in the middle of that, so I'm no help.
I mean, because the pole signs will include the gas stations as well.
Right. I'm in favor of removing it.
What about the roof sign?
Roof signs, let's take it
Take
out.
roof out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pole signs, I don't know. So we're all in agreement striking roof signs.
Yeah.
Meaning they were not prohibited.
That's
Right.
correct.
they will be allowed.
Allowed.
And what do you want to do about the pole signs, which again is Amendment D? We'll skip C and come back to it in a moment.
What are we doing? I'm sorry.
We're talking about.
Amendment D is the pole signs,
Right.
where someone has struck that.
I have a fear that if we do prohibit the pole signs and everything does go to ground level, I just don't know if that makes for a safer, for travel. And like Dan said, it's some of these people's livelihood, it's their business
Right.
name. So I'm in favor of probably striking that.
As much as I see Mike's point, I am too.
How about you, Pam?
In our current code, it does state certain height and your print space and things such as that.
And I'm good with that. I'm not saying we should have the Wild West.
Okay, so pole signs.
Pam?
So we have the pole signs. If we don't have them, then McDonald's is down.
If we keep
I
this
mean-
in, McDonald's
They would
can't
have to go
put
to
the
the
golden
BZA.
arches up. Yeah, they'd have to go to the BZA, pay extra money.
That's awful odd.
I don't want people to think we're difficult just to do the basics.
Well, I'm trying to count the ones moving up and down 46 that actually
Right.
have them currently, and the space now available to put more
Right.
signage up.
There's quite a few.
Because we also have the shopping center.
Yeah.
Are there? Well, the
Yeah.
shopping center, that's private property, and that's
Well,
back
this
up.
would be too,
Well, that's back up off of,
but what would it matter? If the UDO covers everything in the town.
I get it, I know what you're saying.
So, it would be like going to a doctor's office when they have 15 doctors at the small thing, and you're trying to read that at 45 miles an hour. I'm in favor of striking the prohibition against pole signs. I don't know what else to say.
So you want your arch up in the air?
Arch in the air, businesses should be allowed to advertise and promote their business.
All right. So does the
Okay,
council
so
have-
just so
You know,
I'm
yeah.
clear, on,
Strike it.
on proposed amendment B, then, you're going to strike animated signs, and you're also going to amend that to strike roof signs.
And pole signs. Well,
Okay, well, pole
D.
signs is covered
D,
under
yeah.
D.
Right.
So on proposed amendment D, you're striking animated signs and roof signs, so that's going to be proposed amendment D as amended.
Well, that would be amendment B, correct?
Right, proposed amendment B,
B, I thought you were saying D, I'm sorry.
Okay.
as amended.
Okay.
All right, let's move to proposed amendment C now. This is the same type amendment, however, this one strikes inflatable signs, static or moving by electrical mechanism or wind power. I'm assuming these are the little guys that dance, is that what we're talking
The
about?
Gumby signs.
That's
yes.
one, but also would encompass the teardrop ones that, like the gas stations put up, like when the taco shell first came in. And they put, they put their advertising there to let people know, hey, there's something new.
Static or moving by electrical, mechanical, or wind
wind.
power?
I mean, I think there should be, you know, I have no issue with saying they can only be a certain amount of days. Because those
So
signs,
that would negate a balloon as well, right?
so you're having a grand opening, you'd have to go to the BZA.
What says the rest of the council on this?
Strike it. I feel like just strike, if we keep talking about promoting business, why are we gonna prohibit stuff?
I couldn't hear that.
I said if we're gonna promote within Ellettsville, why are we gonna ban all these signs when people are wanting to promote the town, and promote their business?
All right, so is the sense of the council here also that we're going to strike inflatable signs from 4.10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any objections? Okay, D, we've already answered,
Yep.
because that is the strike upon the prohibition about pole signs. Yeah, I believe there's an E, is there not?
Yes, on
Yes.
flags.
And this is flags. So this is exempt signs. We're adding wording, is that what I'm
Yes.
taking that as?
Correct. To broaden the scope of the exemption for flags.
Are you good with that wording? I'm blanking on your name.
It's all right.
Darla, sorry.
Well,
Do we need to put it more legalese?
my advice is going to be, just about anything is of a political nature now. So
That's
if
true.
someone puts up a flag, they put up a flag. And I would advise against, unless it's obscene, I would
What'd you say?
advise against trying to litigate that or prohibit those, just because I think you are courting a lawsuit from somebody or the ACLU. So just, if this passes, I think just make up your mind that pretty much everything is going to be of a political nature.
So do flags need to be even included here?
And they exempt signs, so
Yeah,
They're exempt, yeah. So,
All flags are exempt, is that what we're going to say?
well, you've got a pretty broad definition there of any country, state, unit of local government, institution of higher learning, political nature, and the armed forces. So,
But I don't know if that casts a wide enough net for me.
I didn't hear religious.
It's in here. No, it's not.
Missed it?
No,
No, it's
it's
not.
not. I missed that. Sorry.
So who mentioned all flags?
I did. I would say all flags unless they're obscene.
Yep.
Yep. Can we make that amendment with this to send it to planning?
Does that include pride flags as well?
Stop. We're not going to continue to do this. We'll have questions from the public in a minute, and I know we've taken a couple, but not to single you guys out, but we're not going to go down this road. This is a discussion from the council. We'll come back to the public in a moment, so please bring those things up.
So I guess to answer your question, I guess you just say all flags are exempt.
Yes.
Unless they're
But-
obscene?
Define obscene.
Yeah, there's a definition under IC code.
Okay.
Yeah.
And signs in general, Denise, we do have it where if they're in the right of way, we still have enforcement policy if they block traffic or block visibility, correct?
Yes, but I can tell you the BZA just rolled on 2 signs to let them stay in the right of way. They
But-
were having to change them, so basically it boils down to a sight triangle.
Okay, but those, so I guess I'm saying that we can, even if somebody decided to put a 200-foot flag over something and it would block something, we would still have it, even if we struck flags and made all flags exempt, that's something we could still say, hey, it's blocking the sight triangle. It's
And
causing.
and if it's in the right of way,
Right,
yes.
okay.
And then they would go, would have a choice
Right.
to go the BZA or not.
I'm in favor of just striking, or just saying all, because we wouldn't strike it, we'd say all flags.
Unless
For
declared
exempt.
obscene under IC code.
Yes, unless obscene,
Okay.
under
So-
the IC code.
So why don't we just take flags out of signs?
Because they don't become exempt.
Because then you're not making clear that it's exempt.
Right, this is, yeah,
Gotcha.
these are, yeah.
All right, so how about we put all flags unless obscene under the IC code as referenced earlier? And then if whoever wants to come up with, whether it be plan commission, whatever, a size limitation that someone can get a BZA for, I'm good with that.
Now, can the plan commission make adjustments to this, Darla? I know you've answered before, so it's just an up and down vote from what we see.
I believe so, yes. Either they say yes or no.
Okay,
We'll
then I
agree
strike
to
the whole
these
thing about
changes.
size.
Yeah, then if that's a problem, then we can come back and
Right,
adjust that.
all flags unless obscene. How does the council feel about that?
I'm good.
Yeah.
And we'll
That's good.
reference the IC code. Okay, we have one further amendment, which is proposed amendment F. And Darla, do you want to handle this?
Actually, you've got 2 proposed amendments. Well, you may have covered
I'm sorry,
G
F and
when you
G, I
talked about
apologize.
D, but in any event, F encompasses 2 suggested changes. One was to expand the number of days people could have garage sales, so from 7 days, it's 10 times each calendar year for a maximum of 3 days for each garage sale, and then the children's roadside stands, that's just struck, so there's no problem. It's not a regulated temporary use, meaning the roadside stands are permitted all the time.
I'm good with these changes.
Yeah,
Other thoughts from council?
I'm good on.
Well, here's my question about a maximum of 3 days. So you can put it up once the day before. So if you're having a garage sale Friday, Saturday, you can put it up on Friday, but then you got to go get it down on Saturday because it can't extend into Sunday. Or you can't advertise it like, why don't we give them more days than this? Because most garage sales are Friday, Saturday, or a lot of times are.
I incorporated the suggestions as they were given to me.
No, I give you,
So it's
yeah.
whatever you guys want to do.
Darla's like, I didn't write this.
Not yelling at you, darling. Are you guys good with 3? Do we want to give them 5? I mean, how do you want to do it?
I'm just thinking if we go 5, right, go 5 times 10, 'cause would that be one occurrence for a 5-day trial? A 5-day garage sale?
No, it's however many days we have them, but they can do it 10 times. Like, let's say if we leave it at 3 days, they can have each garage sale 3 days. You can do those 3 days 10 times. So like I could have 10 garage sales through the summer.
Right.
And each of them would be whatever days we decide, 3 days, 5 days, whatever.
And this doesn't speak to when they can put the sign up for the garage sale, correct, Denise? This is just actually the garage sale itself.
No, it's the signs, right?
No.
No,
No, this is under,
we
So-
switched to a different channel.
Yeah, so I think that this would, the more I think about it, I
That's
think
fine.
the 3 days would be
Fine.
fine.
3s is good, yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize, I was still thinking on signs.
so it's basically, you can have a garage sale for 30 days, 1 month out of each year, is the way this is written.
Right,
Yep.
yeah, I'm good on it.
If you want to have one in January, go for it.
Yep.
Everybody's good there?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And then proposed amendment G.
With Darla's recommendation, I'm withdrawing that. I think we've already covered it with the pole sign anyway. And billboards can be considered pole signs because we've adjusted that on the other end.
Okay.
So I will draw G.
All right. Now we'll move to public. And I know this is,
Okay.
One other quick point I want to bring up, and this is different. It's table 412, permitted temporary signs, where you got to get a permit for signs, yard signs. And I'm sorry, Darla, I didn't get this sent to you, but I just need some clarification on it first, and maybe I can understand it better. So Darla, or Denise will probably have to help me on this. So a yard sign, a permit is required for that if you're selling your property or realtors are selling?
It's not the usual 2x2. It's a maximum size 16 square feet and 5. I think 2x2s are exempt. Yeah, I remember we talked about this because we wanted signage for construction sites and we wanted to permit them. So,
I think, is it Gilbert versus Arizona? Am I quoting the wrong Supreme Court thing, Darla, that says that we have to be consistent? Like for political and the same like for sale or lease, that we can't have different rules for like realtors and,
Well,
I'm butchering that ruling.
Yeah, the court advises against regulating content, because once you get into regulating content, you've got a problem. So you can regulate height, size, how many per parcel, how many feet from the ground, what it has to be made of, those kinds of things, but you
But
want-
us saying properties for sale or lease, isn't that kind of regulating content?
Well, it's giving you ideas, suggestions for what that might encompass.
Okay.
Well, no, that's the duration.
Okay.
That's not the content of the sign. That's saying that the yard sign can be up as long as the house is for sale or lease, if the project is under construction, or 30 consecutive days, but no more than 4 times in a calendar year.
so what if your house doesn't sell for 2 months?
And this is the size of sign, Denise, like we had on Sale Street, correct, for a while, that was, I want to say sale and association.
Well, the duration is whatever's greatest, so as I'm reading that, it's while your house is for sale. And if it takes 2 months,
Then it's fine. And that's just for, in like 16-foot square sign. But if you have one smaller, you don't need a permit, correct?
correct.
So it's 16 square feet, so like an 8x8 sign?
4 by
or
4.
4x4?
So they would actually need to get a permit for that, or only after,
A temporary, yes.
and how much does a temporary permit cost?
Right now, it's $40 for 30 days.
So they would have to get a permit every 30 days?
Current code is 30 days, then it has to come down 10, and then it can go up another 30 for 6 times a year. And at the time, the rationale was that they didn't want a town full of banners 365 days out of the year.
So if I put up a sign, I'm building a piece of property, commercial property, coming soon, take your pick, Una Pizza or something like
Right.
that, and it takes me more than 32 days, now I gotta pay another $40?
That's what it
At
sounds like.
this time, yes.
So what do you want to do with it?
Well,
What
I
do we
just,
start with?
I wanted clarification to it, so, which I think the 4x4 kind of clarifies it a little bit to where, because I just seen it and I thought, 4x4, that's kind of Not a big sign, but I guess it really is a bigger sign than it is just a regular for sale sign.
So let me ask you this, and it may be permitted, I don't know, the signs that go out in front of the fire department for fundraising for various entities, do those require a permit?
Yes, sometimes it's a blanket permit for the fire department.
So when United Way comes in, wants to do a fundraiser, and they've got their little, how fast you fill up the thermometer, or the fire bucket, or whatever happens to be out there, and Kevin, I'm just picking on the fire department, because that's where they usually sit, they're gonna have to pay $40 for each of those signs?
No, it's a nonprofit, so we waive that fee.
Same would go with churches, right? Whenever they're rehabbing a sign, we're waiving that fee?
For the temporary signs, yes.
But for the permanent signs, they're paying for it?
Yes, since I've been here, that's been the policy, so.
Okay.
And Darla, when we say that the political signs are exempt by IC code, would that require larger political signs to be permitted too? Have to get a permit?
Well, probably, if they're bigger than the normal signs that you typically see for elections and all.
Because I don't even think the city of Bloomington and Monroe County does that.
Don't know.
I know the county does, and I don't know about the city of Bloomington.
Well, the way this reads, exempt signs, it says political signs. So these are exempt from all provisions of the
Okay.
sign standards. So political signs are going to be exempt.
All right.
Again, unless it's blocking traffic or something.
Exactly.
So where in here is the not-for-profit exempt? I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing it. Because under where I'm reading table 4.9 exempt signs, again, maybe I've skipped over it. I don't see anywhere where it exempts not-for-profits.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be in there because what you're talking about is the fee for the sign.
Right, or even allowing the sign. Where would that be?
You're correct, it's not specifically listed for not-for-profits under the exempt. Could not hear that. I told Scott he was correct. It's not specifically listed. But it can be.
I'm sorry?
It can be if you desire that.
So Darla, can we add, we can't add to this, can
You can, that's a change.
we? Then I would move that we add not-for-profits and religious institutions to the exempt signage.
Which
Okay?
would be,
And because this issue's come up, or does that include, are you including school corporations?
Well, they're governmental, and I thought that was already in here.
yeah, I thought it was.
I guess, though, that's true, at least one of them would not be governmental.
What wouldn't be?
Seven Oaks,
No, they're still government, they're public school.
are they, or are they private?
No, they're public.
The public, okay.
And
Well, what about a
pri-
private school?
Private school, if they're a for-profit private school, I think they'd probably need a permit. But if they're a nonprofit one, like St. Charles as an example, they wouldn't, because, or St. Bartholomew's here in
They
Ellettsville.
would currently, but if we're going to exempt them.
Right, they'd be exempt.
Okay, so yeah, I'm good with doing it that way, that, you know, not-for-profits, religious institutions, and governmental entities should also be exempt from this standard.
So that would be under section 4.9 sign standards?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so you're adding to G exempt signs.
Wherever you want to put it, G or,
Yeah, the G is a definition one, it's not in 4.9, but when we addressed Amendment E, it could go there, Amendment B, any of those, because that's the table 4.9 exempt signs.
wherever you prefer it to go, darling.
We make the motion too, if we've approved all these, we can just make one motion to make one change. to the
As
plan.
amended, yeah.
Yeah, plan's not.
All right, so what are you exempting for nonprofit, not-for-profit educational and religious institutions? Are you just exempting the sign that just advertises what that institution is, or any and all signs that those groups intend to put out?
Well, under the exempt signs is where I was going to put it, which would fall under the rest of these. But if you've got something you prefer for clarity or for operational.
I guess my question is, okay, so I have a school and I put out a sign saying this is my school, but then I want to put other signs out.
Again, think of a United Way fundraiser. It's out there for a
Well,
limited
yeah,
amount of
that's
time.
my question, the
Yeah.
fundraising signs.
Right.
So any sign that's promulgated by a nonprofit, not-for-profit, educational, or religious institution
Or governmental entity.
or governmental entity is exempt.
Council good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right. Do we have further comments on any of this before I open up to public comment?
I'm good.
You want to say anything before we do public? Okay, we're going to open up to public comment. Reminder, this is public comment. It is not question answer. If one of the council members chooses to answer a question, that's fine, but that's not what it's intended to be. It's intended for your comments. So any of the proposed amendments, you're able to comment on. We took them all as a group to make it a little bit easier and less time consuming. So anyone having public comment, either in the house or online? Russ, if you'll unmute Russ and let him speak, please. Reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, just barely, though.
Okay, I'll speak up. I've got a new computer here and I'm not familiar with it yet. I'm concerned that we could wind up with, in R1, and I'm not sure under the Unified Code how R1 is defined. I'll rely on our attorney to relay to this. That we could wind up in R1 residential areas, out-of-state property owners, renting out houses on a daily or weekend basis, and we get into a lot of the problems currently we're seeing in the national news, where people are having these large groups of kids and young adults descend on a residential area, creating all sorts of havoc. Would it be possible in some form, and again, I'll rely on our attorney to advise this, I don't know if this is going to be part of the Unified Code or how we can approach this. Is there a way to restrict rental of residential units shorter than 7 days? Hypothetically, I'll pick 7. You guys can pick the limit, to a C3 activity and classify them as being hotel, motel, etc.
Okay.
So we can try to protect our residential area.
Russ, let me stop you just a second. I'll let you go on to get your thought out, but right now we're accepting comments on these proposed amendments, and that doesn't fall under it. But thank you for your input. Is there anyone else having comments on the proposed amendments?
Yes, Jeff Shun.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm with you 100% on that sign clutter. That's ugly. No ifs, ands, or buts, that is ugly. But I want to say, I think, from what I'm hearing, there's too much, I think, too much governmental fingers in this cake mix. I think we're trying to put our hands in places that they don't belong. Advertising is very important. I am a professional Uber driver, have had over 8,000 rides over the last several years. And one of the things that helps me be safe as I'm driving is being able to see my rider's destination when it's a business. And if I am going down a roadway at 30 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, whatever, and I can't see that business until it's too late, that's not safe. Now, yes, Mike, you're right. The app tells me turn here, okay? But still, having a visual on that is important to the safety. So I think when you're taking taking or limiting or restricting signage for businesses whose purpose is to make money, I think we need to be real careful with that, real careful with that. The flag thing, somebody mentioned the teardrop signs. I would classify those as flag. So and that didn't get discussed, but I would classify those as a flag as well. Again, content doesn't matter as long as it's not obscene. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else with comments? Sorry, Krista, I didn't see you. Go ahead and unmute Krista and let her begin.
You're still muted, Krista. We can't hear you. Showing you're on mute. Nope, you're mute. No, you're unmuted. Is your microphone turned up on your computer?
We got to work around here, Krista. Stand by 1 second. We'll come back to you, okay?
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm here as a representative of the chamber, as a private business person as well, or as someone who lives here. But I've heard three things that I think are very important. One is that we do need a community that has a quality of life where we can relax and be pleasant. But also we are a business community and we need to be able to be welcoming to those businesses. One of the reasons many businesses do not like to set up in Monroe County or Bloomington is because of the constrictions and restrictions and loopholes and hurdles they have to jump. I hope we don't do that to our businesses. Secondly, we like to build a community, and a community contains not-for-profits, such as churches. As you were talking about the temporary signs and whether to put them up like for a yard sale for 2 days, 3 days, or whatever, what about a holiday bazaar from a church who wants to explain a week ahead so that plenty of people passing see those signs? So you might want to think about that. I know that you're working very hard on this, but I do hear one thing. I hear people say, I'm okay with this. This is how I've done it. And I appreciate that because frequently when we're in our job, we take ownership. But let's remember that it's not our ownership, it's the community's ownership. So it's not a question of how I'm doing it or how I'm interpreting it, it's how it's supposed to be or how it's written. Therefore, removing the ambiguities would be helpful. How about a maximum of sign height and size, but not so much whether it's on a roof line or whether it's a pole sign or not. I have a question as the trustee and legal entity for my church. Is my sign that I'm going to come to the planning committee to put a new one up, is that a pole sign? And if so, may I do it or not? It's just simply replacing what's there. Real estate signs that you said were exempt or not, I couldn't hear that. But I thank you for thinking about all of these things. I would just suggest that let's remember we're here for the citizens, we're here for the businesses, and we're also here to build a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready?
All right, we're going to go back to Krista. We've got a workaround going.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what the issue was. So I want to encourage us to think about different zones and different approaches in different zones. That's one of the values of having a UDO and having the land use map and the zones, is that we can think about the different ways we need to approach the zones. Traffic is going to be different in the zones. Even speed is going to be different in the zones. My concern with the way the code was written is when you look at table 4.10, it says prohibited in all zoning districts. That's the problem with the language. We should be more clear about what we want in each zone. Because I can tell you, now that we've struck pole signs, I'm really concerned that we're going to see pole signs downtown. And that's not an appropriate place for pole signs. When we think about the downtown commercial district, the neighborhood commercial district, and the residential districts, we need to treat that differently than we would general commercial, light industrial, and heavy industrial. So part of the problem, I believe, is the way everything is written is it's all or nothing. Instead of a strategic approach to how people move through our town. At the edge of town, some of those signs might be okay. As you move to downtown, where downtown, you want people to slow down, you want them to stop, you want them to enjoy. And not only that, the downtown is going to be our identity of the future. And if it's full of pole signs and billboards, then we've got a problem. So I would like for you to think about this a little differently instead of all or nothing. And think about these different districts and what you want to have happen. The other thing about the yard signs, in my opinion, yard signs should be exempt. If I want to put a yard sign in my yard that says, I love my school, it shouldn't be a big deal. To me, that is us focusing on the wrong things. That is not going to move the needle in terms of the future of our community. So I think yard signs needed to be in table 4.9. And then in table 4.12, instead of calling it yard signs, clarify what you mean. Just clarify the language that you're talking about. Signs that are larger than yard signs, they're, for construction or real estate sale. Just be clear, just clarify is what I would say. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm within my 3 minutes. So I guess my big comment here is we have zones for a reason. And we're thinking about our town strategically. So instead of all or nothing in all zones, can we think about what we want in each area and as traffic moves through our community? Because I do think it does come back to, what do you want us to be known for? What do you want the identity of this community to be? And right now, it's the commercial 46 corridor, and that's not what we want. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, either in council chambers or online?
Do you mind if I answer those?
Well, seeing none, we're going to come back to council.
Okay, I just want to say, the question was asked from the audience about pride signs. We're not going to regulate content, so those would be fine.
I do have a question, thinking about that. When you come off of Hart Strait, down there by Stewart Park, up there in the kind of wooded area, the church always puts Vacation Bible School. What kind of sign is that considered? Because it's great big. What do you consider that? You know what sign I'm talking about, right? Where they have the great big
Well,
billboard or whatever.
think
Under
that-
proposals of what we just talked about, it would be an exempt sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I just now thought about that big sign there.
and kind of coming back to our discussion, I agree with Krista. There's times and places for different things. And if Plan Commission wants to come back again and say in these areas, they're prohibited, I think that's definitely worth a look for us. But where we're left now is with the all or nothing standard. And that's the problem that I have with all these, that I agree with Mike, absolutely. There are places I don't want to see these
I'm
pole
with you
signs.
too on that.
But downtown is not the place for it. But that's not, again, within our purview right here.
Right.
Right now, we're talking about the all or nothing. So if they want to come back and say in these designated areas, hey, absolutely, let's consider that. But right now, that's not a choice we're able necessarily to make.
So Darla, how would we customize this, or would this probably need a longer discussion kind of on this zoning, this will apply, this zoning?
That's going to be a longer discussion than.
Than just throwing it together.
I'm prepared to do tonight, yes,
But that-
because I just, that's,
But since we've opened up a lot of these, could that not then be new business for Plan Commission to come back with proposed ordinances limiting zoning in certain areas, or limiting signs in certain zones, as opposed to the all or nothing?
We actually do. If you keep going, reading through the UDO permitted districts, it kind of is
Right,
redundant
but
again, so.
and these.
But this
these
says
are all or
exempt
nothing.
is all or nothing.
Well, I think that was more like the definition, and then it breaks it down as we go further. Is that not correct, Denise?
Well, but see, we have prohibited signs. These signs are expressly prohibited, in all zoning districts.
For which one? I'm sorry.
Under 4.9, sign standards, table 4.10, prohibited signs, and then you go down to H, prohibited sign types. following
Right.
signs are expressly prohibited in all zoning districts.
You could craft something that would allow for pole signs in certain districts.
Or we can remove it and they could craft something prohibiting pole signs in certain areas.
What I suggest is, my thought, we pass it with the discussion we had tonight, right? And since there has been pressure to get this passed sooner than later, and we've all said it's a living document, we can go in and take more time to see and have that discussion on, what area will this go for? Because, you know, like an example, public political signs probably in everywhere, but building or site, I mean, these are going to be situational to what district. And I think that, once we get this changed to completely take out of it, we can add another table that says, you know, non-permitted signs in this district, or permitted, you know.
I don't know, can we do that, Darla? Does that have to originate at Plan Commission?
When you send this back, you can make whatever suggestions you want. So if you wanted to, for example, say that pole signs are going to be prohibited in certain areas, or if they're going to be permitted in certain areas with certain restrictions, you could certainly do that. I don't know that table 4, my point is, I don't think table 4.10 is the place to do it. We'd have to toggle with table 4.10, and then I'd have to go back to the right section of the code to figure out where to put it in. But
That's
yeah,
why-
you could absolutely do that. You could make that suggestion.
That's why I'm hesitant to do it tonight, because I think that we need a more detailed discussion.
But we can bring that up later, correct?
Well, you've got 90 days to get your suggestions to the Plan Commission, or it'll have to be done later through another section of the Indiana Code.
Right, but what William's saying currently is if we, in order to get this moving forward, we pass it as amended this evening, sending it back to Plan Commission with our instructions or our comments, then later, be it a month later, 2 months later, whatever, in a separate action, we can take up where we then allow these things, or where we then disallow these.
You could,
Because that was the argument made last meeting, that, you know, we can always change it, so
Right.
now I'm using that argument.
From the rest of the council? Okay.
Because I don't think us rushing into which zones or what, I think that could have so many unintended consequences
Okay.
if we just, oh, this is downtown, no.
Okay, then, I guess, is there a motion concerning Resolution 29, 2024 to amend Ellettsville Plan Commission's proposed Unified Development Ordinance?
I will make a motion to pass Resolution 29-24 to amend the Ellettsville Plan Commission's proposed Unified Development Ordinance as amended here. Is that what we need?
yes, but then I'd like for you to go back and, I know it's cumbersome, but
That's okay.
go back and vote on each of the proposed amendments so that we're sure.
Okay, so
Fair
each
enough.
separately.
So yes,
Okay.
pass the resolution, then we'll pass the amendments.
Okay. So do you want us to pass the resolution first, or do them amendment by amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so there's currently a motion on the table concerning passing this resolution.
Second.
And there is a second. Whenever you're ready.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Now, is there a motion concerning proposed amendment A as amended in our discussion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. This is proposed amendment A as amended in our discussions. Roll call.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Next is proposed amendment B as amended in our discussions. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Motion and a second. When you're ready.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
The next is proposed amendment C as amended in our discussions. Is there a motion?
Okay, wait a minute. On proposed amendment C, the only thing that I had down was just inflatable signs. that you wanted to,
Strike that.
Right.
okay, so it's not as amended?
Not as amended,
It's
okay.
as it's
Right,
read-
as stated.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I thought we added something.
No, it's on the
No.
other ones. They all look
I
alike.
think you put it under
B, I thought.
B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a motion on a proposed amendment C as written?
I'll make a motion to approve Amendment C as written.
Second.
Take your pick of seconds when you're ready.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, amendment D is as written as well, Darla?
Yes, that's just striking the pole signs from the list of prohibited signs.
Is there a motion for proposed amendment D as written?
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. When you're ready?
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Next is proposed amendment E as amended in our discussions.
So moved?
Second.
Motion is second.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Next is proposed amendment F as written. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Motion is second.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
And proposed amendment G was withdrawn by the author.
Do we
correct?
need to make a motion on G
I
since
would
we've...
appreciate it if you'd make
Okay.
a motion to withdraw.
Is there a motion to
Amendment G.
withdraw proposed amendment G?
So moved?
Second.
Motion is second. Are you ready?
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Okay, everybody hold that thought. There are no ordinances on first reading. An ordinance on second reading is ordinance 2024-17, repealing the Town of Ellettsville, Indiana zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance, and maps, and adopting the Town of Ellettsville, Indiana Unified Development Ordinance and maps. And a public hearing thereon. I assume this is as amended, or do you want to table this pending them coming back?
I would prefer it, let me look at this again, given your amendments, and I would ask that council table this until the next meeting.
Is there a motion to table at legal's request?
Motion to table?
Second.
Motion is second. When you're ready?
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
There is no old business. Is there an Envision Ellettsville update? Okay. Under new business is authorization for myself to sign the construction agreement for the Ellettsville Heritage Center.
At the August 12th meeting of Town Council, the low bid by Value Bill Incorporated to construct the Ellettsville Heritage Center at Stewart Park was awarded. The contract price to construct the Heritage Center is $345,300. This evening, we are requesting approval for Town Council President to sign the construction agreement with Value Built Incorporated. Town Attorney has reviewed the agreement, and I just want to add, it's, construction of the Heritage Center is made possible from a READY grant, which is a state grant. We thank them
Thank
for
you.
their funding.
Thank you for working on that, whoever did.
Okay. Is there a motion concerning this?
Well, I actually have a
Yeah.
question. I've not asked this before, but I might as well. When we have someone construct something for us, like the town hall or whatever, is there a type of warranty, a quality of, I mean, how, because I've seen what happened with the county. They paid millions to get the dome resurfaced or redone, and their people, whoever's doing it, dropped a hammer, broke the stained glass thing that was 100 years old, and it's still there because it cost too much to fix. And if there's shoddy workmanship, whoever we contract should stand behind it. So I want to make sure we have something written into the contract. I mean, not indefinitely, stuff's going to wear and tear over time. But, I mean, if
Yes.
somebody, yeah,
So they're going to have warranties, and he's a local builder
right,
as
like,
well.
yeah. It's not
So-
directed at them, it just in general. So we do have some guarantee that after we take possession, if we find out something's wrong, we're not gonna have to bid another contract to get it fixed. They're gonna come back on their dime to fix it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I think that's the Dan Swafford rule, is it not?
Exactly.
Then I'll make a motion to approve authorization for town council president to sign construction agreement for the Ellettsville Heritage Center.
Second.
You missed that.
Motion and a second. For years.
Scott Olda.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes. Thank you.
The next one I'm particularly excited about, the 2025 Summer Concert Series presentation.
Do you wanna see this?
Yes, we got one. We got
I'm, I don't know if this is taller than me or whatever. I'll look like this. I'm Tony Calumet. I'm the general manager for B97 in Hoosier Country. It'll almost be 2 years since I've been, not only bought a home here in Ellettsville, and, but work at B97 in Hoosier Country. One of the things that in my past that I am very grateful for is that I have lived in small communities all over the United States. And by doing so, I have created what they call summer concert series. These summer concert series are not haphazard. They're very professionally run, very well done. The whole idea is I get the town council behind me, the Ellettsville Chamber, even Bloomington Chamber is involved. We started this out almost a year ago, it seems like, to be able to really make all the preparations. And what it does is simply this, is when I first arrived, and I love this community, but I was at Bloomington and we were doing the Holiday of Lights and for downtown at the square. Every business was closed. And here's what thousands of people that were coming to the downtown area, and businesses were not taking advantage of that. And so this concert is a different form of advertising for all of our sponsors. Basically what it is, it's free to the public, completely free. All ages, all genres, we'll play all genres of music, you know, anywhere from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, country, western, you name it. There's going to be something for everyone, even some blues. And it really becomes an event where we go out as a radio station and sell different businesses. And the way that we arrange that, we have different levels. So for example, I can tell you already, the title sponsor is Smithville Communications. And we do have IU Credit Union that spent $20,000 already in helping us book the bands. Now, if any of you have been to the IU games, the tailgate parties, you see over what used to be across the street, we used to get the $500 bands. Well, these bands were charging, like the bands is like $2,000, plus we're also paying, we're getting regional names, bigger name bands to come in, and also we're having a sound crew come in. And we also have master rentals are being able to put up all of the tents because a sponsor, when they buy whatever level it may be, and let me assure you that this is not just for big business. This is for the mom and pops that are here in town, that we've got it very affordable, because without the backing of them, it makes it impossible. Rather than constantly seeing major, just like with IU Credit Union or Cook or these, when I can go downtown and get the smaller businesses and they're out displaying all of their products that they have to offer, it's a different form of advertising. Because what we expect and what I've had happen in the past, we've had like maybe the very first concert we may have 200 people. Now, we're going to be advertising this, and when I go to businesses and I tell them we're advertising not only on radio, digital, social media, TV, newspaper, we're advertising on every medium that we can. Why? Because if a business is going to be successful, they need to advertise. So that's what we're telling our customers, that's what we're telling, but most important of all, look, I'm hearing all the wonderful things that you're talking about tonight, the signages and all of that stuff. You want this township to grow, so do I. And when all of a sudden, we're not just having it right here, the concerts will be here, but we're gonna advertise this with banners and posters and everything, as far as from Spencer to Martinsville, Bedford, all around the entire area. And we'll get into the actual, this here in just a second. But the most important thing that I want you to understand, each one of these has been successful for whatever group I have been with, because we brought the local community together on this. And most people, if you come and enjoy the business people and everything else, besides being a party, something that's a really great adventure, it's like a family reunion every Saturday night for 10 Saturdays, starting May 22nd or May 24th through July 26th. One of the important things is working with, like over the 4th of July, we'll be able to have the concert down at the Marcy Jane Lewis Park, and then everybody can travel up to go to the Edgewood High School for the fireworks. What a great event that can be. So the idea is that, number one, let's kind of take a look. I just want to go through on the first page where it says all concerts will begin at 6:30 and end at approximately 9 o'clock. The food trucks will be on site. I've already talked to Jordan, and the food trucks that are here on Wednesday will be here every Saturday night. And then also, we're going to highlight a different nonprofit each Saturday night. So whether it's the Humane Society, whether it's Big Brothers and Big Sisters, when you have a large crowd there, they get to come up on stage and be able to talk, just like the other businesses will have the opportunity. But the nonprofit will be there, and we're going to be encouraging them to go over to their tent and to be able to talk to them, donate, and they're going to get a lot of publicity out of that. So there's going to be 10 nonprofits. I did not bring, and I should have, for you to look at, but we've pretty much covered, when I've been with Mike and Denise, the list to make sure that we've got Ellettsville and those that kind of communicate back and forth with Bloomington and Ellettsville in itself. Also, during the middle of the concert, that what's happening is we give away anywhere from $10 to $50 gift cards. Now, this is cash. So we get those from all the sponsors. And what happens is we call it dumb stuff. So we'll ask for somebody if they got a tube of toothpaste. Now, at the very beginning, we have to ask for very simple things. Nobody's going to be bringing this stuff to the park with them and that kind of thing. So we make it for change and stuff. But as we go, it gets a little tougher. And if you're watching the concerts, you'll find out that people start bringing bags of different things to try to outguess us, to make sure that they have it so that they can get cash on with the gift certificates. I told the group this morning that I said that one of the funny things was, because we do massive media to encounter on here and focus on Ellettsville, is that what we did is that I got up and we had a $50 gift card, cash. They could use it for gas, groceries, whatever they wanted. And I wanted to do something different. So I did. I asked the crowd, I says, does anybody have a Viagra pill? And what happened was, I had a 72-year-old woman running to the stage, still packed, and it was that purple little pill. And the TV, the newspaper, everybody got onto that. And what was the talk of the town? That concert, you know, that was in Alpena, Michigan, and also it got great publicity, what you would call water cooler talk. And when I was with the group this morning, they were already saying, you know, why are you going to advertise? People already know about this already. Why? Because we're out promoting it heavily. The radio station is going to be involved with the Fall Festival Parade. We'll have banners that'll be on the truck and those kinds of things. We're getting more involved. We're involved with the Chamber of Commerce here in town and helping them out as much as we are in Bloomington. But we see a good need, because what I'd like to see is this concert is just not this year for 2025. This is a concert that'll go on year after year after year. And hopefully, that's why we want to talk to the businesses and have strategic planning with them to say, how can you get the most benefit out of all of these people there? And at the beginning, before it all starts, go around to all these different places to get some information. If you were to put a dollar sign on each person, for example, if you had 200 and you times $25 was the worth of each person, or if you got 2,000 and they're 25, there's a value there. And these businesses get to come up on stage, briefly talk about their show, their business, and then to be able to show where they're at. And we'll have brochures that show where all of the different vendors are, and along with the nonprofits. Let's take a look at the second page. And the second page is a picture of in Alpena, Michigan, where we did the concerts. Now, what's really going to be nice is that I'm going to be able next year to have Ellettsville on this front page rather than Alpena. But as you see, that's the amphitheater there, and behind that is Huron, Lake Huron. We used to have boats pulling up behind there. It got to be so exciting. And this crowd right there were 3,000 people. This was getting close to the end of the concert season. And that's what we're really wanting to see, starting out small and then working itself up. If you take a look at the next page, it's got a diagram of the stage. And basically, as you can tell, we're going to be having, these are all the booths that are around the area for all the businesses. As you can see over on the left-hand side, you got the vendor trucks. There's going to be a much larger tent as kind of a, where we're going to have sandwiches, that type of thing for, it could be even with the barbecue that's here in town, serving that to the band, the staff of B97 and Hoosier Country, and to all of our sponsors, plus beverages, pop, water, those kinds of things. Then we're going to have an RV back there for the band. And then what I'd like you to take a look is the stage. If you take a look at the stage, all of those banners, and you know as well as how that stage roof leans up this way. What we're planning to do is build some rods everywhere, signs, or Johnny signs from Bedford, coming up and putting these rods across the top so we can just kind of roll down the bar, slide across the banners, roll them back up, and there will be 3 levels of those. Plus we'll have banners on the sides, banners on the front. Now, what's good about that? Because we're going to leave those poles up there so anybody any organization, any church, fall festival, whoever it is, wants to use that stage, wants to put up banners up there, they're free of charge. That's for them to be able to use. If you see all of the tents that are around here, then basically, once they are set up, that I talked with Darren from Master Rental, and they're gonna leave those up during the whole summer, plus with the outhouses. There's gonna be like 6 of them out there. So they will change the water and all of that stuff out of there each week. So whatever group of people, the ball diamonds being used, whatever, they can use those facilities. And if somebody wants to use the tents to go under there, they can. Let's go to the next page. I'm trying to go through this as quickly as I can, but I guarantee you it's been well thought of. These are going to be the huge posters that we design. The actual logo for the summer concert series is this right here on that front page. And all of the banners they'll have their colors on them, the sponsors will be there, the names of the bands will be there, with what style of music they have. And the next page is actually it's a flyer, it's a slick flyer that opens up. It'll have the sponsor names, the concerts, the dates, it'll have all the bands inside. All of those flyers, slick flyers, will be posted everywhere. And all the businesses will, at the end of the concert season, we are going to have like a VIP party. And the VIP party is going to congratulate all the businesses, you know, the town of Ellettsville, the chamber, and everybody else for help supporting this event. And it's free food, drink, and also that everybody will receive their own poster, and also you'll receive a video, bits and pieces of each of the concerts. It's a way to come back and say thank you. I'm trying to think of let me just run through something here quick. Oh, the other thing is that there's still discussion, and we're gonna be working all of this out, and that is the parking. When you start getting that many amount of people and the advertising, we're already, next Tuesday, we're talking with Seven Oaks. There could be using People's State Bank, and also to be able to, I think it's Trinity Lutheran, maybe to use their parking lot. Could have shuttles. This is all in the discussion making to try to calm down the amount of traffic. The only thing that we're asking, that I talked to Denise and Mike about this morning, was that if Darren leaves all of that stuff there, maybe just one extra drive-by just to check to make sure that everything is okay. But this is like not just coming in, and this is a very well-run professional concert series. It's free of charge for everybody. And the only way, and our money that we created out of that goes back in. Now, Alpena was like 15, maybe 20 years ago. They're still doing it today. But before I left, after 3 years, we were able to bring in, at that time, the Doobie Brothers. So the idea is that we build the money to keep making sure that we get better entertainment year after year. But we're already gonna start off with a high dollar bands already. Not something that you're gonna see at IU or for the tailgate parties or that kind of stuff. So I look forward to your support and to be able, and I forgot to bring a card, but it's pretty easy to get a hold of me, or Mike or Denise, get a hold of me at the radio station. We're also talking about shuttle rides. Probably we'll need 1 or 2 off-duty officers to walk around. Out of all of the years that I've had, I had 1 incident, and I had a Crown member come up to me, tap me on the shoulder, and immediately I was able to get an off-duty officer. They got the gentleman and they took him off the grounds. We're not promoting alcohol and all of the other stuff. That's not what we're there for. We do have Metalworks is one of our one of our sponsors, who is going to provide, and they're bringing their license to the park. And this is all the permission with everybody, not to sell liquor, but what they're going to do is we'll have the sponsors, the staff, the band, by me, will give everybody a ticket where they can get 1 drink. And then what Metalworks wants to do is give a shot glass. They got all these different breweries and stuff like that, of wines and different things. They just want to hand a cup to everybody who would like to have one, to try out their thing. Now, most of the other places that I've been at, people have brought, without us promoting it at all, brought their own little coolers. They come out with their, their lounge chairs, whatever. It's basically, it's great. People aren't rowdy. We don't create that kind of an atmosphere. It's a very professional run. We'll have plenty of staff out there with your help and with everything else. What I'm hoping that'll happen by having all of these concerts every Saturday night, getting people to come in early. If they want to use the hotels, motels, if they want to use the restaurants that we have, and when it's done at 9 o'clock, they can go to the bars if they want. So the idea is trying to get the dollars that are there to be able to spend inside the city. And if this thing continues to grow, like I know it could, and I know you're already involved with building a new stage and all of that stuff, but I guarantee you is when you take a look at that page of that amphitheater that was in Alpena, and you put it in a large park, and you get people from all over everywhere coming, it is our intent to be able to get as many people here as we possibly can. So probably my time limit is up. When I first got up here and I saw you have 3 minutes, I'm going, uh-oh. Yeah.
But yeah, we do appreciate your presentation, sir.
Yeah.
Certainly look forward to you working with our staff and making this happen.
Yeah.
I love what you said.
So if there's any questions, please get a hold of them. Please give us a call. We're more than willing. We're constantly promoting this thing. And as soon as the Fall Festival gets here, we're going to have our banners up through the parade. And also that as soon as October 1st gets here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start teasing summer concerts in Ellettsville.
That's it.
And that's all you're going to hear.
Outstanding.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, I'd like to move, when you want to, I didn't know if you want to do it right after this before we get into this.
Thought we were going to do a privilege of the floor.
Oh, okay, that's fine. too.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it on, Cindy, we'll do it on a privilege of the floor. We got one more thing to cover, and then we'll go to you.
So next on the agenda, and again, thank you for the presentation on the summer concert series, is introduction of the updated employee handbook.
We've been working on the employee handbook for, what did we decide, 2 years? And we finally think we have something to offer. Well, actually, we do have something to offer. Kelly Cantrell, she's our new assistant? Deputy clerk. And so she's really kind of, she's really kind of made it, expedited it and made it actually happen. So we really appreciate all of her hard work. It's been vetted by all the department heads over and over and over again. And so we present it to, we'd like to, at the next board meeting, dependent on what our lawyer says, we'd like to adopt it.
Okay, so we've been given a copy to look at.
You have.
Questions should be directed to you before the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on this?
No.
All right. Now we'll move to privilege of the floor. Anyone having business for the council not
Yeah.
part of our normal agenda?
Cindy, come on up here. Cindy's from Pantry 279. She wants to address the town.
The 3-minute time limit remains.
I'm Cindy Chavez. For those of you who don't know me, I run Pantry 279. I know you guys are busy doing the Envision Ellettsville. I've been watching it as I live in Ellettsville too. And I wanted to kind of put something in the back of your mind for as you're thinking on this of the pantry. We started in Ellettsville. I think you all know our story. We had to move up a little bit because we outgrew our first spot at the church. We've outgrown our second spot already, but we've got a lease there for the next 3 to 6 years. However, the next step, and this is the final envision that the girls had, was our own building. And that would be 3 to 5 acres of land and a 15,000 square foot building with a loading dock. We have a guy from Indianapolis who's promised us for years to build us a hydroponics greenhouse, so we would have produce all year round. Bloomington Orchard said they would come in and landscape the land into like a really nice little park with all edible plants and trees and bushes. So kind of like Willy Wonka, only healthy foods. So that is the next step for the pantry, the final step for the pantry. We want to stay in Ellettsville, or as close as possible. We're currently serving around 9,500 people a month. And then, of course, we've got Thanksgiving, the Christmas program, and the children's summer food. We now have 36 counties coming to us. And I saw 2 people in there today with Big B coffees. Or no, what was it? The Americano coffees. So, I mean, they buy food. It's not a lot because they don't have a lot of money. But we do have a lot of people coming into town. We have donors. We have tabling agencies that come into town. And this is not something I'm thinking about now, obviously not today, but just something in the back of your mind to keep us in mind as you're doing the Envision Ellettsville. And that's all I have.
Anyone else? Privilege of the floor. Hang on a minute, Russ. Russ, hang on a minute. We have someone else going on. Those should have been muted, so you would need to be able to mute everyone.
I don't have a lot to say, but I do thank the council for passing the amendments to the UDO. I know that being a government person or official can be a thankless job, but I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to amend things and make it much more friendly for people to express themselves. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to Russ, if you'll unmute him. Go ahead, Russ.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm trying to find an answer to a question. Can we restrict short-term rentals in residential areas? Scott emailed me that this is a lawyer question, so Darla, it's going to be in your bailiwick, but I would like to see some restrictions placed on having daily rentals of residential property, given the problems other communities are running into with Airbnb and other rentals turning into big untended parties, especially in properties owned by an out-of-state party. Can we require them to at least have a local manager or resident manager? But what I'd really like to see is something that would take it out of R1 zoning. You cannot use a residence in an R1 zoning for daily or even weekend rentals, but anything that was requiring any property you want to rent for less than a week has to be in an R3 and is dealt with the same way as you would deal with a hotel or a motel or something else. So Scott, this is my request. I'll leave it to you and the council and Darla to see how we could do this. But once we get under this unified development ordinance, does the town lose its ability to pass such regulation unless the whole county agrees to it? What is the I've read the Unified Development Ordinance as proposed, page by page, and I get a sick feeling that we're signing away our ability to regulate the use of property within Ellettsville. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, reminding that this is for comments only. If one of the council members chooses to, at this point, make a comment on itself, you can, but it's not required.
Well, I just want to say, Denise, this was discussed when we were doing and don't we have some provisions in there now because I know state law puts some pretty strict guidelines on what we can do, but didn't we put some limits for permitting at least for those short-term rentals?
Yeah, as far as, how can I word this? Like Airbnbs can't be regulated.
Right, exactly, this by the state.
So,
Right.
yeah, so for short-term rentals, we did put in the UDO to have a registration process to monitor those, et cetera.
Darla, do you think there's?
You could require, if you wanted one, a local manager to be on site
Everybody's muted.
or to be within a certain distance of the home.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else having business under privilege of the floor? Seeing none, we'll move down to supervisor comments, beginning with the town manager.
Sure. Hey, I think I'll start with, people always tell me they want to know what's going on in town. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what we're doing. So I just thought I'd mention that the shelter, or not the shelter house, the Heritage Center, which AKA we call the new barn, will start tomorrow. So also at Stewart Park, we'll be making our first connection to the Karst Trail with some pavement. And so we'll do a small piece of the trail, and then we'll move on to interconnect it with the two pieces we have on the north end and the original trail and the extension that we've got all the way to McNeely. So we're building the trail. I just thought I mean, there's a lot of action there. A lot of people go by and they're probably wondering what we're doing. So we're working on a trail. We're working on the new barn. So with that said, because people have really pounded me with the thought that we need to be better communicators of what we're doing in town, there'll be a proposal to the department heads at the next meeting prior to the next council meeting, and we are going to bring in somebody to do communications for us, create a town page on Facebook. Can't believe I'm saying it. Everybody knows me. But anyway, we are going to create a communications organization, so to speak, and we will create a new way of communicating to the town and how we direct all the questions that come to us, whether it be from the media or individuals or whatever. And so we're trying to move up into the social media era. And so I think that'll really help with what we do in town and explain things even about the UDO or maybe the summer concert series. But anyway, we're moving that way. Enough of that. We have some business we need to attend to as a board and a group. We need to create a redevelopment commission. I think there is some, of course I always say this, but there's some urgency to it. I think we have development coming to our town, and if we are to consider TIF districts, the first step is getting the redevelopment commission appointed. And I think we also need to consider a team to work on a TIF with Baker Tilly Group and Ice Miller and create the TIF. Matt Eckerly from Baker Tilly is going to put together the initial proposal and map out how we go about the TIF. I've given him two areas to consider. One of them's west side and the other's downtown, two different separate TIFs. And so I think the team from the town should consist, we definitely will need Darla, Amber, Noel, Denise. I'll be on it. and we probably'd like to have 1 or 2 board members, and it'd be nice to have 2 in case there's a problem with one of them not being there. I think the board always should be represented on this team. And so, anyway, we also, the only other person, entity that I'd like to include is like either Clark or Jen Pearl from BEDC. They've been with us hand to hand ever since we've started growing as a town, and I think their background and their information would be good to have, their perspective. So anyway.
I think we came to kind of a consensus on what the RDC should look like from our perspective. Ms. Brown, do you want to put that in some type of ordinance, or how do you want to do that?
I think the ordinance says, or gives you some guidance on who should be appointed.
Right, and we did that, we put it in there to where we're at.
You just need to make your appointments.
Okay, so we can work on that by next week, our next meeting?
That'd be great. I assume you have people in mind?
If not, if people want to contact us and want to be involved, I think more than willing to entertain.
That'd be great. I'd be glad to help with that. I got a couple
Please.
ideas, and if nothing else, I'd like to, I could represent you and approach them when we come up with the names.
Sure, that works.
I did want to ask, sorry.
5, is it not?
5.
5, yes.
5.
Circling back to the social media, is this in addition to the current Facebook page we have, or are we just going to kind of relaunch the Facebook page? And
We're going to relaunch it.
okay.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Chief?
No, I'm good, thank you, sir.
Chief?
We currently have a full-time position that's open and are accepting applications for that. So if you're interested, go to the town hall and get an application.
Okay, thank you. Denise? No? Okay, moving now.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I forgot one thing.
Yeah.
I probably should have done it on privilege of the floor, but currently, there are 3 meetings, one's being held tonight, and the next is Tuesday, Wednesday, that has to do with the fire district, taking over responsibility for fire coverage for Bean Blossom Township. I think anybody that's in the community that's interested in this, I think it might affect the town as well, should consider going to the meetings and learning everything they can about it.
I'm concerned with those, that the Ellettsville proposal was not being put forward. Do you know if it is or not?
Kip's not here, and Chris Klaus, they both went to represent us because I couldn't be there tonight. So we had somebody in the crowd. I think Baker Tilly are actually presenting the costs and.
That's correct. No, these 3 meetings they're having is strictly what it will cost the taxpayers of Bean Blossom Township if they go with the district. There's no mention of any other proposals. The only place, I've sent them to all the media outlets around here, and the only one I seen post anything was in B Square.
Okay.
And if you, just to remind you, I sent the board and the department heads what I sent to the county commissioners about the whole project. And
Have you
so
had any response yet?
I haven't had no response, but I plan on going myself tomorrow.
Well, I mean, just to put a personal front to it, I'm a little disappointed that Ellettsville's proposal was not considered more fully. And I understand that's that township's ability to do what they wish. The hard facts of it is that Ellettsville and the taxpayers of Richland Township are footing the bill for a lot of resources being sent to Bean Blossom Township right now. And that just continues and continues and continues because we discussed this as a council, we've discussed it at open meetings. We're not going to let someone's house burn. We're not going to let someone have a heart attack without the closest available unit going. But yet there's other decisions being made that are going to cause hard decisions on our part to have to be made as well. So
That's correct, because if they choose to go with the district and get it in by the end of this year, it will still be 26 before it starts. So they're gonna have to figure out what to do for 25.
they will. And we will have to have an evaluation of what exactly our costs are per run and have a discussion with our partners at the township and see what continued services we're going to extend.
I don't think most people realize we make the majority of the runs to Bean Blossom Township based on mutual aid, and I'll probably speak out, not say the right thing, but the irony of the situation, even if they go with the fire district, by virtue of our location, we'll still be looking at having to make a lot of the runs just because of mutual aid. I mean, all the fire departments work together, and they work together well, but practicalities, common sense, money, especially money as it comes to what it's going to cost Bean Blossom Township residents, which I am one of, it would dictate that this would all be vetted, and cooperation would be what would be considered before just making a run towards, hey, let's just do this and not take any other positions or any other good ideas into account. So,
Kevin, I just want to thank you and Chris, because Chris especially has been directing people on social media, correcting. There's a lot of misinformation out there about our plant, a lot of it. And I appreciate you correcting that. Have you gotten phone calls from residents? I'm just curious if they're actually taking advantage of him. Good.
Yeah, we've gotten several phone calls. I review the Facebook post, but I let him handle that because I'm.
Understand.
That's above
But
my
no,
pay
you
grade.
guys are doing a great job with that, and I'm glad to see that people are actually calling you to follow up, because this, quite honestly, there'd be so much back and forth on Facebook where a conversation could take care of it in 10 minutes.
Yes, there's just a tremendous amount of misinformation out there.
Yep.
thank you.
Anyone else? Moving on to council comments.
Nope.
Thank you. I don't know what's a comment or question for you. Have you ever been around any or seen any town, I know Indianapolis has it, where they show movies outside? They have the big, like, blow
Bloomington
up
does it.
Wilmington has
thing.
2 movies in the
Bloomington
park.
does it.
Are we gonna do that?
It's been brought up several times before.
I think that would be neat too.
Well, we did have a drive-in movie theater at one time.
Well, I know, I lived here, I was a kid.
Different movies you're talking about?
It's been brought up several times before in the past few years. It all resided with the Parks Department. Unfortunately, the staffing really wasn't there to make things happen. I don't know if we're there yet, but I would assume we're getting close.
I would just
As we
think that'd be
develop
really
our
nice.
parks, it'll be a good idea.
I think it would be.
Speaking of the parks, just to put some folks at ease, the cow on the barn will make a return, correct?
Yes, it's in a witness protection plan right now. Nobody knows where it's at, and it will be revealed at the proper time.
As long as we can put that to bed, that'd be great. All right, seeing no business before the council, the meeting stands adjourned.